Hi, I'm Steve Geppi, and I'd like to welcome you to Geppi's Entertainment Museum. In 1974, I quit my job as a letter carrier at the U.S. Postal Service and opened a small comic book store in the basement of a TV repair shop. Little did I realize that from that humble beginning would grow this incredible pop culture collection you see here today. At the center of that collection is the comic character. The Brownies, Buster Brown, Mickey Mouse, the Lone Ranger, Superman, Barbie. These are just some of the characters who've made a tremendous impact on our individual childhoods while at the same time shaping our collective experience. As you wander through these halls, you will see the history of the country and our changing society reflected in those characters and the media through which they entertained us. Why are these characters so important to us? Perhaps it is their power to distract us. They've brought us relief in times of trouble, like the Great Depression and World War II. Today, they help us escape the pressure and stress of our ordinary, everyday lives.
Welcome back. We're at Geppi's Entertainment Museum. I'm here with Andy Hirschberger.
Hi, Steve. Nice to be here.
And it's great to have you.
Thank you.
Felix the cat.
Yes, one of our favorites.
I see him right there, or at least I see his head anyway.
Well, this is a very interesting piece. We did a lot of research on him, and we've come to the conclusion that what we once thought was folk art. Folk art being what people would make themselves. Like a lot of times people will like a comic character and they'll create their own toy. That's what we thought Felix was, but we've seen several more examples of him, and this head has actually been mass-produced. And the biggest giveaway is it's not just a head, it's a tool. It's a measuring tape. And
That's the longest cat tongue I've ever seen.
You should come over to my place. My kittens have tongues longer than this. They're fans of the band Kiss. Felix's tongue is a measuring tape in centimeters and inches, and he also is great because he gives kids, especially back then, a way to learn measurements and yet have that sort of spontaneity, fun that a lot of toys actually bring to the table when it comes to education. Not that toys are exclusively educational, but you have a child wants to learn how to measure stuff. You could give them a measuring tape, which is kind of boring, or you can give them the figural Felix head, and like, how big is my fishing creel over here? It's 8 centimeters long. Wow, that's big.
That is big. Let me ask you a question about
Sure.
the Felix head. Do you have any idea, circa, when that might have been manufactured?
This would have been made in the 20s, circa 1920s. Manufacturer's unknown. We believe this was probably made in Germany. A lot of cartoon toy characters were made in Germany. I can't say what company did this, but maybe Nifty or Borgfeld could have been behind this. They were famous for their Mickey Mouse toys and others. Now, this one we can tell you about. This is a British toy. Seems a little flat for a toy, but it's actually a piece of china that a kid would have to decorate their room, and it's Felix the Cat Fishing Crew. And what's interesting about this is it actually tells you a little bit about what company distributed it. It Pathé presents. You know, in England, Pathé would have been the film company that distributed Felix the Cat. Now, what's interesting about Felix the Cat is, like a lot of very famous characters that were made their debut in film, he has two possible fathers. Pat Sullivan, who distributed the cartoons, claimed he created Felix, while other people have believed that Otto Mesmer, one of his chief animators, created Felix. And there's evidence for both of them. For example, the first Felix designs had handwriting that was in Pat Sullivan's distinct style, whereas other people said that Otto Mesmer's personality was the one that really made Felix what he was, so they leaned towards him.
And for those people that generally know about Felix, when did he make his debut?
Well, he made his debut in the teens. He made it in a cartoon called Feline Follies. And in that, poor Felix is a love-struck cat who falls in love with a very comely young feline. And unfortunately, as so many people in the world of romance know, it was not reciprocated. So he did what any classic 1910s male would do when he didn't get love. He went to a gas pipe, inhaled the fumes, and died. It's not a very fun cartoon.
Sounds a little strange for a cartoon, and this is oriented for children in those days?
Cartoons are one of those things that people, because they were seen on TV and kids were inclined to watch them, that kids were very fond of them, they lose sight that that wasn't who they were made for. They were made for adults. They were made for general audiences. And back in the 19-teens, mortality was not something that was unfamiliar to a lot of people. These were the days when people would have 10 kids in the hopes that more than half of them would make it.
Survive, right.
So this wasn't something that was seen as in bad taste. It was sort of being more realistic. And also people were prone to very romantic notions of disposing of themselves when love didn't work out their way.
Well, and he had another 8 lives, right? So it wasn't like he was permanently snuffed out.
Well, in the cartoon, you really didn't get the feeling that he was coming back. But he did.
He did, all right.
He came, so yes, he did have 8 more lives. In fact, it seems like every time he comes back, he gets an additional 9, because he's still around. You still see new Felix material all the time, and everybody just really flocks to him. I mean, I myself personally have a bunch of Felix items in my, I wouldn't say collection, but my personal mementos, keepsakes collection. So, you know, he stood the test of time. This is
Well, he certainly has. Well, I think we have a clip coming up, so let's take a look.
Oh, okay. So there you are, an example of early Felix. Really interesting how his adventures still play very fresh today. You feel like when you see stuff that's, say, over 100 years old or almost 100 years old, like these cartoons, that they'd be stagnant. But humor, in a lot of ways, stays consistent throughout the years, and it's really nice to go back and be refreshed by just how strong a lot of these things are.
Well, the thing I think I liked about him as a kid growing up was it seemed to me, and I didn't realize, of course, when I was growing up, how old he was, but he always seemed to have a little spunk to him.
He did.
He's getting the scraps and stuff, but
he's interesting. You know, Walt Disney did this short called Alice in Wonderland. Well, not Alice in Wonderland. It was like Alice's Adventures. It was this little girl, Alice, who was a real girl that would be in these cartoon universes. And there was a cat figure in there that Disney really didn't want to do, but was sort of told to by his distributor. That was basically a very similar to Felix cat. So Disney, in a way, rode the coattails of this little guy before making his own little guy.
Before making Mickey Mouse, then.
Oh, and then, of course, Mickey Mouse worked in so many different areas, whereas Felix also appeared in comic strips. Mickey, just that talking little devil just took off. And Felix, though, is still with us.
So this cat's got a lot of stamina then.
He does, he does.
And at Geppi's Entertainment Museum, are there other Felix artifacts, and are there things that can be bought in the store if they want?
The store is always turning over. I think we have a few Felix items available there. We do have several comic strips by Otto Mesmer, who did the Sunday pages. We have those on the wall to read. One of the things that we were looking into but we couldn't get from another museum is the very first image broadcast on a television in the States was the Felix the Cat doll.
Interesting.
So that actual Felix was in a Canadian museum. Unfortunately, we were unable to break in and take it from them.
And this was something in the early 50s then?
No, we're talking about the 20s.
Well, the 20s.
Television has been around for much longer than we would like to think of. The problem with TV that throws people off is that it really comes into being in the 40s. And the reason it came in so late was because of World War II and the Depression, two things that really kept it from moving forward.
But the actual technology was available earlier.
It was available earlier, and they were actually starting television stations in the late 30s.
Interesting. So Felix was an early star.
Yeah, he was.
Interesting. Well, we've got more coming up, but we're going to have to take a short break, so please stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back. We're here with Zach. Zach, this is your part of the Geppi's Entertainment Museum empire. Tell us a little bit about what's going on.
Well,
what are you doing?
I'm the sales store, the sales manager here at Geppi's Comic World. We've started to go ahead and kind of go back to the founder's roots. Before it was flashbacks and it was more like your classic museum gift shop. We've decided to go ahead and change the name back to Geppi's Comic World and go back to what Steve did before everything when he was the comic store owner.
So what kind of changes are you making in the store to reflect this then?
Bringing more books back in.
Okay.
Comic books has been something that when I came in here there was not a lot of, and with having the comic book collection we have with Action #1, Detective #27, Tales of Suspense 39, First Appearance of Iron Man, these seminal books in the comic history, we didn't have a lot to reflect our love and Steve's love of comics. So the first thing we've done is we've started getting more trades, which are collections of stories, and we've got those in the store so that you can come in and pick up anything from any point in time and start getting good stories. Starting in September, we're going to be carrying a limited number of actual issues, which are the weekly comic issues from Detective Comics, Action Comics, Batman, as well as some of the other series that are going on as well, such as Spider-Man.
Now, these are reproductions of older comics?
No,
or these are current stories?
Current stories, brand new issues. We are going to be on par with anything you'll find on your newsstands or your local comic store. Just a smaller selection, because we still want you to go to your local store to look for the stuff that's a little more out there, and also the independent stuff as well. You can go ahead and buy new comic books here. Starting in September, we're going to start carrying weekly issues.
So these are current stories
Yes.
that are just being written and given to the public for the first time.
Yes, these are current creators on current books with current numbering and current artists. This is not reprints. We are going with new books every Wednesday.
Are there any titles that you can share with us? Or?
A couple we're going to be carrying, obviously Batman and Detective Comics, as well as Action Comics. We're going to be carrying Spider-Man, as well as a few surprises.
Zach, you've got a lot of great characters here in the museum. Felix the Cat. What about Felix the Cat?
Felix the Cat, there are plenty of collections that we do have here as far as older material and older comic strips. There's nothing new going on with him right now, unfortunately. I've been with us having one of those main characters that are in the museum throughout all the different time frames. I really wanted to try and get him in here. We have some older stuff, but unfortunately nothing new is working
No.
with Felix.
Correct me if I'm wrong, and that happens a lot, but I think I heard that he's still very big on the continent. Do you know if there's anything new going on there?
I do not know anything specifically. Unfortunately, when it comes to Felix, with the characters that are here, I do go and do my research as best I can, but I am not that computer savvy.
All right, so we're going to leave it on Felix, but you've got some of the classic issues here in comics and so on. Zach, I want to thank you for this segment here. Your shop looks just great. There's a lot of interesting things here. Geppi's Entertainment Museum itself has a lot of great things, but this store is really looking pretty good.
Yeah, and to be honest, this is a passion for me. The one thing I've always wanted to do, and I've mentioned it before on the shows, I wanted to be in comics. I wanted to be in a store, and I've wanted to get that experience. And I've been blessed with the opportunity to go ahead and use this store as a way to go ahead and share with everyone what I've been able to enjoy and what I've been able to get in the different stores I've been at. So if you want, come down, see our experience. We're back. Everything is going the way it's supposed to, and I guarantee you'll have an awesome time.
Talk about lucky being able to indulge in one's passion. We're going to need to take a break. We have a lot more coming up, so please stay with us. great things to purchase here. And you want a unique gift, Mother's Day, Father's Day, birthday for a relative, Christmas, Hanukkah, who knows what. Some really unique things down here. Plus, the museum itself is just great.
It is, and we are trying to get more and more unique things in the museum. I can definitely say if you want to see something awesome, stop by around November, December when we have Christmas going on. We'll have some very, very nice things for display as well as for sale to anyone willing to go ahead looking for that.
Now, I know you're making a lot of changes. Are you doing layaways yet?
Not yet.
Not yet.
I'm working on it.
How about credit cards, though?
Oh, we take every type of credit card known to man.
Lots of credit cards, all right. So a unique gift, something out of the ordinary, right here at Geppi's, and Zach has it for you.
There's more to it than that. These characters have played a large and largely unrecognized role in our education. Batman comic books helped me to learn to read when I was 5 years old. Thanks, big guy. That experience fostered a lifelong love of reading. I had dreamed of creating this museum for almost 30 years, but where to build it? When I toured Camden Station for the first time in 2003, I realized I had finally found the home these characters so richly deserved. Abraham Lincoln passed through this building 4 times. When Babe Ruth left his boyhood home of Baltimore to play for the Boston Red Sox, he took a train from this very station. Today, the first floor houses Sports Legends at Camden Yards, a museum which chronicles the history of Maryland sports. If there is a more appropriate place to display the history of pop culture in America, I can't think of it. I've been called Baltimore's biggest cheerleader. Guilty as charged. Heck, I even bought the City magazine. I was born and raised in Little Italy, an ethnic neighborhood just across the Inner Harbor from here. I love this city and all of its spectacular attractions. From the National Aquarium and the Science Center, to the Walters Art Gallery and Museum of African American History and Culture, to the restaurants of Fells Point and Little Italy, Baltimore has something for everyone. I urge you to visit all of those places and experience everything this magnificent city has to offer. But first, I'd like you to take a trip with me in my time machine to discover or revisit all the wonderful characters, friends I call them, that have shaped our popular culture. And don't be afraid to say, hey, I had that when I was a kid. I do it all the time.